Hi, welcome to the Feel Better Show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with Chris Jagger again at his beautiful farm in Provo, Oregon. Chris is a lifelong farmer and he's now the agricultural director for Benson Arbor Farms. Well, Chris, how do you like working for Benson Arbor?
Oh, it's been great. Yeah, it's very different than vegetables, I'll say. And it's just one crop instead of 40 or 50 crops, so that's a little different too. But yeah, it's been great just figuring out how to make things efficient for the cannabis operation and kind of treating it like a vegetable farm, honestly.
Does Benson Arbor grow indoor, outdoor, greenhouse? What do you guys do?
It's mostly what we do, a lot of light dep houses for the early parts of the season, but our main focus is outdoor, but it's all in native soil. So,
okay, well, that's great.
And they've done indoor in the past and some light assist kind of like greenhouse grown, but all of it's natural light at this point.
Okay. And what do you think about outdoor versus indoor versus greenhouse dep?
So I always prefer to grow in native soil. Growing in greenhouses, I'm not opposed to. I've always grown in hoop houses here at my vegetable farm. But really the advantage of growing cannabis undercover is that you can work the edges of the season. And so in a competitive marketplace like we have nowadays, it just allows us to be pulling product down throughout the entire season. So that's the main advantage there. The quality is different too. Not better, not worse, it's just a different product as well. So that's really interesting because I've not really seen it on this scale before, because I kind of dabbled in the whole world of hemp whenever the whole hemp craze was going on. Nothing major, but I always did a small acreage here at my vegetable farm. It was just another diversified crop. So now it's really interesting seeing 4 Tier 2 licenses, on scale. It's a lot of plants.
Yeah. So you talked about bringing the operational efficiency of vegetable farms to the cannabis industry. What are some examples of how you're applying that to the farm?
Well, one of the biggest cost cutters that I've done is doing lots of soil testing and realizing that if you have high quality soil, you don't really need to pump the plant full of nutrients like all the time. I really do an amendment program that's analogous to my vegetable program. And it's real simple, balanced pelletized fertilizer, some mineralization, and then supplementing with, liquid fish, liquid crab, but not in high amounts either. So really cutting the cost of inputs, and then doing as much of the prepping work of the beds. We grow everything in open field, no plastic mulch or anything like that, and we're using tillers and discs and plows, just like what I do here with vegetables. So that really cuts down on the labor of man hours that it takes to do things, and just trying to create efficient systems for taking the material down once harvest starts. Just using mechanization to our advantage whenever possible. So.
Okay. How about pest management? What's your approach there? And do you have a lot of pest issues?
Well, it's really interesting. There's always pests.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I've seen, and I won't say that this is the sword and the stone to solving all the problems, but once we started reducing the amount of nitrogen that we were pumping into the plants, over nitrifying the plants, for whatever reason, is almost like a beacon. It's almost like a bat signal to every pest known to, and so we've really seen the incidence of pest pressure reduce since we've stopped over nitrifying a lot of the plants.
Okay.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
And then honestly, you can use a lot of the organic pest controls. We haven't really had to use much of it. We use sulfur on a pretty regular basis. We kind of are managing I never know what to call cannabis, if it's orchards or vineyards, but I'd call it an orchard, I guess, because you're growing trees. But I kind of treat it, I think of it in terms of like how the organic vineyards are managing things. And so a lot of the tools that we're using now are what a lot of the organic vineyards around here are using, So sulfur is a big part of that. Using some some oils, like Suff oil, things like that, but not that much. We haven't really had to do it too much. Really just getting the plant health up and getting it to be properly mineralized. And honestly, letting things slide sometimes too, because there's always insects and there's always pests out there, but sometimes you can see the plants just grow past them too. So, and I found that with a lot of my veggies as well over the years. And also it does depend on the season, because if we have an early fall and it's wet, then you definitely move into the world of problems with, the high humidity environment, and how do you deal with that? And that's a whole other game involved. But really, it's just getting things down in a timely manner, and then having the square footage of space to properly dry and cure the material. So,
do you use some biological preventatives out in the field in those wet falls?
We have, there's some, and I think the jury's still out whether I see a net effect from that or not. I don't know. I'm not sure. So time will tell on that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, this question is hard to answer. It may be more of just a speculation, but what are your thoughts about the future of the cannabis industry?
Yeah, that's a good one. It really depends on where things go with nationwide legalization, because now we're seeing so many states that have not only legalized medicinal use, but now also recreational use. And we're just seeing that just be pocked all across the US. You would think that the momentum would be there to go ahead and move towards, nationwide. And once nationwide legalization happens, then that would allow interstate commerce to happen, because that's really the limitation right now that I've heard everybody say. And that's honestly what still drives a lot of the black market motion that happens, is because you don't have statewide commerce available, or interstate commerce available. If you have an area like Oregon, where we've seen years and years of oversupply, because this is the greatest place on the planet to grow cannabis, that you see oversupply, there's no place for it to go. So if you have struggling farms, what do they do? It's reality, Luckily for us at Benson Arbor, the sales team there has done a really good job with focusing on the Oregon market, and we've been able to really get all of our product out through the Oregon market, and that's been amazing to see. And that hasn't come without just lots of grinding, because it's a tough marketplace. I'm glad I'm not in sales. I'm glad I'm in production. So, yep.
Well, Benson Arbor's quality is legendary.
Yep, they've always done a great job, and the genetics that we carry, that's really a lot of it. Because when I started there was already a genetic library of 160 strains, that they've kept in-house for a long time. There's always rotation, but they have their standard strains that they've had for a long time. And those are the things that the customer base really knows them for, and they always want. So that's been a big learning curve for me too, is I haven't come from the world of cloning before. For me, it was always buy more seeds. And now it's in this whole other technique. So it's been interesting to grow my horticultural knowledge over the last 2 years, just understanding what that actually takes to run an effective cloning operation. We're talking thousands and thousands of cuts taken every year. So it's a whole different ballgame. So that's been really interesting to learn that.
Do you guys grow from seed at all?
Just for pheno hunts.
Okay.
So if we're pheno hunting, then obviously we'll grow from seed, but everything else is by cut.
Okay.
So that means that as soon as harvest stops in October, November, we get 2 days of just breathing, and then it's right into starting to take cuts, because we want to make sure that we have enough of the library represented, and then we just start, and then it's from there until, right now where we're at, we're getting ready to start planting a lot of our full term. So these are plants that have come out of succession cuts that started back in November. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the Feel Better Show today. I've been talking with Chris Jagger here at his farm in Provo, Oregon. Chris has a podcast. What's it called?
The Not Only Farmers podcast.
Okay, so check that out. It's an excellent podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Leave any questions in the comments section, and we'll see you in the next episode.